Last week, while we were at the range shooting the Thompson Center Icon chambered in 243 Winchester, I mentioned the 243 being a really good deer cartridge. Well, I had a comment that I thought was interesting, and the comment is from someone in the Midwest or up north. I don't remember exactly. I think it's Midwest, and I'm paraphrasing what he said here, but he said the 243 is probably a great cartridge in the South where the deer are smaller, but here in the Midwest, our deer are bigger, and it's just not enough cartridge. Okay, and I understand that. I do. The deer are bigger in the Midwest and further up north, colder climates than they are here in the South. Okay, but keep in mind, a lot of people here in the South think that 243 is not enough cartridge either. And then at the same time, there are people all over North America and Midwest, as far north as you want to go, into Canada, that swear up and down 223 is more than enough for deer. And 243 is twice what a 223 is. So, which is it? And then there's people all over the country that think you need a 300 Win Mag for deer. All right, so I thought today, with so many different thoughts on the extreme on cartridge selection, that it'd be interesting just to take a moment just to talk about picking cartridges that are on the extreme for deer hunting. Before we get too far into this one, I want to share a story with all of y'all that someone shared with me, Gerald. And Gerald, I appreciated you sharing this. And this is only part of the story. We'll get to the rest later. But Gerald is an experienced hunter, very experienced. He's hunted a lot of different types of game and done it in a lot of places. Okay, he knows what he's doing. And like so many of us, Gerald had tried a lot of different cartridges and rifles over the years, and he finally decided that the perfect rifle for him, all-around hunting rifle, was the very rifle that he started with, a 336 Marlin lever action chambered in 30-30 Winchester. That was it. After trying different others, that was the one. All right, now keep in mind, Gerald did some work on the rifle. He bedded the butt stock, a two-piece lever action, two-piece stock. He bedded that and did some other tweaks to it and really dialed into accuracy. Hand loads forward. He knows the rifle. He knows his loads. He can put the bullet where it needs to go. All right, and he knows where he needs to put the bullet. All right, so Gerald is lethal hunting with that lever action 30-30. So much so that he took 13 of his 16 elk with it. That's right, elk. All right, so, and I know a lot of you, 30-30, you can't hunt elk with a 30-30. Well, go tell Gerald that. So, if you know where the bullet needs to go, you've got a properly constructed bullet, and you can put that bullet where it needs to go. That's it. You can hunt deer with anything. I mean, you can hunt anything that walks North America with that. I don't know if I'd chance it on a big bear, but anyway. Okay, now with that, all that said, my friend Joey that was out at the range with me last week, last deer season, he took his limit, 5 deer for our area, and he never even picked up his rifle. He limited out before rifle season even came in during our primitive weapon season, just with a crossbow and muzzleloader. He limited out. Right, if you can kill deer with a sharp pointed stick, I promise you, 223, 243, 300 mag, they're all going to work. They're all going to get the job done. 9mm pistol, 45, you name it. Kill deer with any of them. Okay, now with that said, when we start getting into the extremes on too light a cartridge or too heavy a cartridge, things start getting a little iffy. And it just depends on whether that's a good option for you. It depends on you as the individual, what you're trying to do while you're hunting. Why are you hunting? Okay, with the 223, a lot of people they love their AR or whatever rifle they have chambered in 223, and they just want to hunt with that rifle. They're not really, they're serious about getting a deer, but it's more about getting a deer with that rifle. They want, either they just want to use that rifle or they want the challenge of getting a deer with 223. Same way with a lot of people that like to hunt with pistols, handguns. Okay, that they want the extra challenge of using a handgun. Okay, and that's fine. It's up to the individual. With that said, though, with 223, I have complete confidence I could take deer, no problem with 223. But I would never hunt with a 223 because I know with a 223, I'm going to have to be very selective in my shot placement, or more so in choosing my shots, when to shoot, when not to with the deer. I would only take a perfect broadside shot on a deer with 223 where I could do a double lung shot, or a heart if you just like shooting for the heart. I mean, it'll get it there with a broadside shot. Okay, the thing is though, deer aren't always going to be perfectly broadside. There's going to be times that hunting with really light cartridges, 223 pistol cartridges, that type thing, there's going to be times you're just going to have to let deer walk because they were at the wrong angle. Maybe all you had was a raking angle, a severe quartering shot, especially from behind. Okay, I'd never take that shot with 223. Even with a 243. Now, I'm confident I can kill anything with 243. I have no doubt about that. Up north, Midwest, South, it doesn't matter. And I've never even hunted Midwest or up north, but I'm still confident I could do it. But I would be very particular about the bullet I chose for it. There's no way I would choose a polymer tip bullet for my everyday hunting with 243, even here in the South with our smaller deer. And the reason I say that is what I just said about 223. If I had a raking angle shot, polymer tip bullets are made to expand rapidly and they can go to pieces on you, especially a small bullet moving high velocity. Okay, I wouldn't trust that polymer tip bullet to be able to go through whatever all it had to go through on a raking angle and still be able to get to vitals and do what needed to be done. Okay, so 243, I would hunt with it and know it worked. Proper bullet selection, which that's every cartridge is proper bullet selection. That's a huge part of it. But 223, I don't, there isn't a bullet out there that I would trust to be able to get through enough guts to reach vitals. Okay, that's why I personally wouldn't hunt with a 223. When I'm hunting, it's to get a deer. It's not to challenge myself with that particular rifle or cartridge, or to be able to say I did it with a pistol or with a bow. I'm out there to get a deer. Okay, and keep in mind I'm usually on public hunting land, so a lot of difference between hunting public hunting land and hunting a hunting club where there's a lot higher deer population. You have a lot more opportunities. If you're in places that just don't have that many deer, you don't want to blow the opportunities you get. And then when that big one finally walks out, okay, you surely don't want to be having to let a deer like that walk because it just was a bad angle and you 223, and most of you are very ethical hunters and you would let a deer walk if the angle wasn't right and you were hunting with a 223. Most of you are aware of its limitations as well as its capabilities. I mean, it's perfectly capable on a broadside shot. Okay, now, opposite extreme, 300 Win Mag. I can keep in mind, I grew up in the late 70s, 80s, and all the people, not all the people, a lot of the people I looked up to, they wanted to use a Magnum. Okay, and I guess starting in the late 60s, but all through the 70s and 80s, a lot of people thought you just had to use a cannon out there to deer hunt with, 300 mag, sub mag especially. Okay, well, keep in mind, there's times I think the 300 mag could cost you. Yeah, it's got more than enough horsepower to get through whatever you need to get through to get to vitals, especially on a deer. But if you got to throw up quick and get on a deer, are you going to be able to put this where you need to put it as quickly and accurately as you will this 243? I know I'm going to shoot this a lot more accurately and be able to get on the deer quicker. It's less lighter rifle. I'm more comfortable with it. I'm not worried about scope bite. I'm not worried about anything with the 243. I'm going to put it where it needs to go. Or so many of the other lighter shooting cartridges are your standard deer cartridges. Versus the 300 Win Mag, I'm probably going to want to make sure I'm in a good position and ready. Okay. So, yeah. Either extreme, we can run into issues. Whereas, in 300 Win Mag or 7 Mag, there is a place for these cartridges for deer, but it's longer distances. Well, anybody taking a shot at long distances, you're never going to rush a shot like that. Okay, so yes, it has its place, but as far as standard hunting, I think your standard cartridges, if you're serious about just getting the deer, you're serious about making it count when that big one steps out, and no matter what, you're going to bring him home. Standard cartridges with proper bullet selection, and then being able, knowing that rifle, being able to put that bullet where it needs to go and knowing where it needs to go. Just like Gerald was doing with the elk and deer and everything else, he used his 336 Marlin on successfully. Okay, I know that was a touchy subject, hunting cartridges and hunting, and we all have our favorites and our pet cartridges and our own opinions, and hey, that's just my opinion. But this is something I've been thinking about for a good while, even before the comment about the 243. Okay, and this goes back to when I was shooting the 257 Roberts, working up loads for it. I was really surprised by how many comments I had from people out west that said they absolutely loved the 257 Roberts for elk hunting. And how many people that said they loved the 243 Winchester for elk hunting. I was surprised at that. And one comment in particular, he said that the people out west tended to use lighter cartridges. It was the people from the east traveling out west that tended to bring the really big Magnums, the 300 mags, 7 mags, 338s, that type of stuff. And I thought that was interesting. And it was something I pondered for a while. Was it that the people from the east were lacking in confidence and they just felt like they had to have the big Magnum for an elk and they just didn't have the experience to know better? Or was it the people out west were just maybe a little overconfident? All right, well, after thinking about that to 243, I don't think it's either. I think it comes down to what I said about people wanting to use a 223. Maybe they just want to use that cartridge or a particular rifle, and they can just wait for the perfect shot. Get the double lung shot, good angle. Right? For them, it isn't necessarily about just getting a deer versus someone that's after a big deer where you might only get one chance, or someone in an area with a low population where you're not getting many opportunities and you have to capitalize on the few you get. You need to stick with one of the standard hunting cartridges so that you can take the deer from any angle. You might not have another shot. Okay, well, I think that's the same way with that out west. People from the east traveling out west, they might only get one opportunity in an elk. I mean, that's it. Next week, they got to go home. They might not ever see another elk in their life. So they need a cartridge with the horsepower that can get the job done from pretty much any angle. Versus someone out west, well, they're hunting in their backyard. If elk steps out and they've got a 243 or 257 Roberts, whatever, the angle isn't right or range is too far, whatever. Well, they can just pass on the elk and it's no big deal. Next week they'll have another opportunity, or maybe 2 weeks later or whatever. I think that explained that right there. And confidence, I'm sure, does play a factor. But I think that's the biggest issue is how important is it to you? All right, that's my thoughts on that one. God bless and have a great day.